very good morning to all the participants, and I welcome you to this fourth session of our series of webinars on project lifecycle at nonprofits. As I had mentioned in my first session, fundraising is a topic which we believe that instead of talking theory around fundraising, it is ideal to have someone who has experience in it and who has practical inputs on what has worked, what doesn't work. And we thought that interaction with such experts would be ideal way to reach out on what are the issues in fundraising. And we are privileged to have Dr. Priti Bhombe with us. Welcome, Dr. Priti. Just to give a background, Dr. Priti is a medical doctor by profession, and she practiced in Ahmednagar for about 13 years. Also worked with her father, who had a hospital for a few years, and before moving into the social sector. Since 2011, she has been associated with Snehalaya, which is a NGO based out of Ahmednagar. She'll talk about it more. And Snehalaya has a very unique concept of they have their own radio center, which operates within the periphery of 15 kilometers. And she started there as a script writer, and also as a media coordinator and in charge of that. In 2016, Dr. Priti was given the responsibility of handling fundraising and PR work at Snehalaya. So she has more than 7-8 years experience now in this sector, in this field of fundraising. And in 2020, she was also given responsibility of the media, handling media relations for Snehalaya. And I think it's a very important thing to know that fundraising and media,
they go
hand in hand, and very important, I think, good inputs for all of you. Recently, in December 2023, she has been given a responsibility of being a secretary to Snehalaya Trust. So now she's a part of the senior management team of the trust. So with that brief background, let me once again welcome Dr. Priti.
Thank you.
And for all the participants, it would be good to start with some background about Snehalaya, if you can share that.
Sure.
And before we get into the questions.
Yes. So the informal work of Snehalaya began in 1989, but it was registered as a trust in 1992. Our founder is Dr. Girish Kulkarni. Actually, the story is very interesting. Girish Kulkarni used to use some by-lanes to reach his class before other students, and that was maybe when he was in 10th or 11th standard. And then he saw girls of his age actually selling themselves for some very petty cash. And then he wondered why these girls are on the streets while I am living a very privileged life. So that thought maybe lingered with him for a long time, but he couldn't do anything about it. And then when he was attending college, he got some like-minded friends, and they started visiting this red light area in Ahmednagar and talking with these sex workers who usually used to shoo them off or use cuss words and why are you coming here and all that. But they persistently went there, talked with these women, and especially the brothel owners, where they thought that it was a threat that these boys coming maybe for some free sex or something. But then one of the very young sex workers, she actually approached him and told him, see, you can't do anything for us, that is what I feel, but you should be doing something for our kids. And then he started spending some time with 2 kids of that sex worker. By the time it was a month, 80 kids started coming to him. And then he realized just spending time from 4 to 8 p.m. maybe didn't work. And then our first project came up, which was a shelter project for the children. One of the HNI in Ahmednagar, you may say, who was also a builder, he said, see, I have a land, I don't know how to use it. It's on the far end of MIDC, so let's see what you can do with it. So Girish and his friends, what they did was they created a dome-shaped structure on their own, and then there was a mezzanine floor where the kids used to sleep, and there was a ground floor where they used to have their food and everything. So that was the first project which came up. And at the same time, HIV and AIDS was crawling itself all over the world, and sex workers were the major victims, the first initial victims of HIV. So Girish thought that something had to be done, and then they made again they got some. I'll not say funds. They got some in-kind things like tin shades and bamboo and all that, and they created a makeshift facility. And then they called it the Death with Dignity program, because the doctors also didn't know what to do with these patients. So what they did was they did some palliative care for these sex workers once they were thrown out of the brothels, when they were diagnosed to be AIDS, having AIDS and HIV. Then they brought them to this makeshift facility. Palliative treatment was given, and they gave them proper death rights. And so they called it the Death with Dignity program. This was the second project. Then they realized that these kids needed to go to school. But the school said, we will pay you something, but you don't bring these kids here. Because our so-called white-collar parents won't like their children to sit with these type of children. Then Girish said, no, I have to teach them, because if they don't get educated, there is no future for these kids. And then we came up with the third project, which was the school. Then we realized that the roots of all these issues lies in the slums. So then we started working with the slum kids. Then many abandoned babies were brought to Snehalaya. And then Girish realized that this was again an issue which needed to be handled. And then the adoption center came up. So basically all these projects are very need-based projects. Whenever they found that there was an issue related to women and children primarily, they stepped forward and did something. They started a helpline for the kids, which was later taken over by Childline India Foundation, and then we got funds for that. They started a helpline for sex workers, which then was open to all women in trouble. So as of now, we have around 20 plus projects, and it's a long way which we have come. So we do not only operate in Ahmednagar district, we also operate in Pune, Chhatrapati Shivaji Nagar. And besides that, we have also supported and given hand-holding to more than 30 smaller organizations to be on their own or start something and in their places. So we know that Snehalaya can't be everywhere, but we can do something with others. That is what is our thought process. So now the Death with Dignity program has become a Life with Dignity program. Yes, that is how our journey looks like.
No, very nice. I mean, it was a privilege to visit your campus, and I visited almost all the campus, including some work that you are doing in the agriculture.
Yes.
With
HIV positive
Pani Foundation.
People and Pani Foundation.
Yes. So that's very nice to know. I'm sure all the organizations who are here would know about Snehalaya, because being in existence for 30 years is long enough a period.
Yeah.
Coming to the subject of fundraising, since you have been involved in this area for about 8-10 years in Snehalaya, how do you think it has evolved within Snehalaya? I mean, how did you look at fundraising in 2016, and how do you look at it now? I mean, has it become more complicated, more easy because you are known and all that, or how has it changed?
Yeah, I'll go a bit behind 2016. I mean, when Girish started Snehalaya, it was more of an in-kind donation sort. Like he used to go around the city and ask, "Kahin event ho raha hai kya? Can we get something which is left over from your events, or if you have any old clothes or maybe utensils or furniture or anything which you want to get rid of, but we can use it." So it all started with in-kind donations. But then what happened when we started a project which was dedicated to HIV and AIDS, then some government funding started coming, like NACO, National AIDS Control Society, KHPT was there, Karnataka Health Preventive Trust. Then when Childline came in for the helpline of children, Childline India Foundation started. So first it was in kind, then came the government. In 1999, we were the earliest organizations to get an FCRA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what was Girish's thought behind getting an FCRA, because I'm sure we didn't start getting FCRA donations for a long time. But no harm in getting
Yeah.
a FCRA. So that must be the thought. But the earliest FCRA donations came from Holland. There was an organization called Stitch in Geron, and the founder actually visited us. Dr. Nico Noble, his name was, and he visited us. He saw what Girish was doing, and those were the first FCRA donations which came in. And then we busted a minor children's sex scandal in 2005.
Oh.
And then 22 people who were who's who, they got a double life imprisonment. So that is how Snehalaya came to national picture. And then slowly people came to know about Snehalaya. Then it was Sipla was our very earliest supporter for the school building. So the more of the infra part started getting funds. Voltas came in. Then there was an organization which is still existing. It is called the Caring Friends. It's not a trust registered, but it's a group of very like good-minded people who came up, who are still working, and they support more than 100 plus organizations as of now across India. They are not an organized trust or something, but still they are together. And Caring Friends was a huge support to Snehalaya, and it is still a huge support. And Ramesh Kacholia is a very kind-hearted gentleman who is the founder of Caring Friends, and we call him Uncle. And he's uncle for all 100 plus organizations. So all these people came forward. So individual donors were the earliest people who started donating to Snehalaya, and then Satyamev Jayate happened.
Yeah.
And we were in the first episode, and then we got a national recognition again in 2012. Reliance Foundation was matched the funds which were raised through Satyamev Jayate. So that was the maybe a inner way to corporate funding. And then 2013 was the official CSR law was passed, and then that time Snehalaya released that now we need to have something called fundraising team. But it was in 2016 that actual fundraising team came into place. We were only two people, myself and my colleague Taj, who is still working in fundraising with me. So two of us were there. And one more milestone was in 2014, Snehalaya UK was established.
Okay.
So that was another way where we were going to get FCRA funds. And Snehalaya UK was primarily for fundraising and awareness creation about Snehalaya in UK. And it was based in London.
So Snehalaya UK is an entity which is registered.
Yeah, it's a separate charity which is based in London.
And which is doing the fundraising for Snehalaya India.
Yes.
There is no activity in UK.
No activity in UK, and it's a very white board which they have as of now. So they have still to touch the Indian diaspora in UK. And then when the FR team was established, then multiple layers of work began, like how to write a proposal, how to create a page, what is a crowdfunding platform, how to approach them, then what are the low-hanging fruits in the projects which can be pitched for corporate funds, and then all these things we started exploring, how to prepare a presentation for corporates, how to appeal to the corporates, then what is the importance of a good website, why newsletters are important, why feedbacks are important. Till that we were doing some type of feedback or writing letters and all, but it was not a very organized thing which we were doing.
What is the total fundraise that you do annually now?
About, if you look at last 2 years, it is around 18 CR.
18 crore.
Yeah.
And what would be roughly the mix? How much of CSR? How much of?
So if you see, since last 3 years, the CSR has gone up. It is around 37%.
Okay.
Individual donations are between 25 to 28%.
Okay.
Then government grants 7%. Other private grants same 7% or so, and FCRA is around 24%.
Oh.
Yeah. So FCRA is quite high. It's time that we.
And FCRA is also individuals or foundations?
No, they are individuals as of now, because we have a Snehalaya UK entity and we have a Snehalaya Americas entity, and then there is an organization in US called the Arpan Foundation. So what Arpan Foundation does is they gather funds on our behalf and then they transfer it to us. Okay. So majority are individual donations. Just recently, from 2 years, we are getting a small funding from USAID. very small amount, but then we are on their list now. So it's a moment of pride for us, sort of. But again, now my aim personally will be to increase individual donors more, because I feel that getting individual donors connected with Snehalaya is much more important for a long term perspective.
And you must be dealing with how many organizations on a yearly basis? All these donors, all of them put together must be what, 40, 50?
For CSR?
CSR as well as all the other government grants and other
For
foundations.
CSRs, last year, if you measure the number of utilization certificates we have given, it is around 75 to 80.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And government grants are the usual, I mean, DWCD.
So these are like multiple donors for the same project or something?
No, multiple donors for multiple projects. I mean, sometimes it happens that our scale for maybe for the children's shelter project is quite huge. So we have more than 2 or 3 CSR donors for that. Same way, if we have a big infra project, it's not that one CSR will fund the total project. Then again, we have to look for 2 or 3 people. So it
And how many
happens.
of these are sort of you have had a relationship for multiple years?
So out of these 75, I think nearly 50% of them are more than 5 years or more than 6 years who are with us.
Okay.
Yeah. Bajaj, Alfa Laval, these are
these are like,
very...
does this happen like you get some kind of a assurance from them that they will be here, or you have to sort of keep on renewing them every year? Or
initially it was just a 1 year thing, but now the thought process of the total CSR fraternity has changed. They have also come to know that just funding for 1 year doesn't help, doesn't show any impact. So now they are minimum in for 3 years. And then every 3 years, if they feel that yes, we are doing good work, they continue. There is a loophole which I'll let you know how this works, because usually it is said that more than 3 years a CSR can't help to the same organization. But there is a sort of loophole which I will tell you how they can continue for years together.
Okay. And what I mean, since you said 2016 fundraising team was set up.
Yeah.
So what different have you done, or what is thing that you feel has worked in terms of gaining confidence of the donors? I mean, why are they with you for more than 5 years? I mean, I'm sure the work has been there, and the sincerity and dedication of the team, all that is fine. But end of the day, it is also a relationship that has to be maintained.
Yes,
so
yes.
How did you?
I think the first important thing which you should be looking at is transparency. Transparency is very essential whenever you are dealing with any type of donor, which is a CSR individual, any type of donor. Transparency in your working, in your bookkeeping, then following timelines. These people are very, very particular about following timelines. If you're giving them a timeline for 12 months for completing a capex or an infra donation, yes, you have to stick to the timelines, and you have to keep on reporting to them per month, quarterly basis. Where have you reached? How many beneficiaries have you addressed? So if you are giving a target that yes, we have around 200 kids in our shelter home, then you have to tell them how these 200 kids are, what age group they are, where they are going to school, what they are doing, how they are faring in their academics, how they are faring in their hobbies, what kind of other education you are giving other than academics, and you need to prove it. Basically, there should be testimonials, there should be good pictures, there should be reels. And it is a very good practice if these people keep on visiting you, because seeing is believing. It's as simple as that. Once they see, once they talk to the beneficiaries, once they talk to the staff, they are assured that whatever they are going to put money in, that is going in good hands, it is going to good people. Otherwise, if this transparency is not maintained, after a while, if you are doing something really bad, CSRs are not going to come to you again. And we are very thankful to our CSRs or the corporates who have been with us for such a long time. And after a time, this due to all these practices, this faith increases, and they are like, and the single point of contact on both the sides should be aware enough of all these things. I'm not saying only on the organization side. On the CSR side also, the single point of contact should be well aware of what is going on the ground. Otherwise, then there is a breach.
Yes.
Even they should be aware what are the difficulties, what things can be a challenge. They should know that too. So it is mutual, whatever happens between CSRs and corporates and the organizations.
One of the complaints or grievance we have heard about from NGOs is the CSR donors ask for a lot of information, and a lot of it is last minute, and they want it like yesterday.
Yeah.
So, have you experienced this, or only
Yes.
the utilization certificate has worked, or you have some standard templates in which you give these reports, or?
Yes. So whenever we enter a MOU with corporates, they usually give us a template for reporting, which is easy for me actually,
Yeah.
because I know exactly what I have to put out to them.
But then you have 50 templates for all the donors.
Yeah, no, but for smaller organizations, yes, we can give a report as we want to give. But now we have developed a standard format for that. But then for huge organizations like Bajaj, Alfa Laval, and so on, they have a proper template. We have to just fill the information in the template and go. See, no one is going to read 18 or 19 or 20 pages report. They don't have time.
But
for
how
that.
much is this effort? Is this a quarterly report to donors?
For some it is quarterly, for some it is half yearly, for some it is annual.
So how much of an effort is it? That's a part of the fundraising team's work?
Yes, that is a part of fundraising team. The effort is not on our side. The effort is getting all the information from the projects.
Operations, yeah.
That becomes a big challenge. They are so busy on the field that sometimes they just forget to report to us, and then we have to keep on pestering. I'm so sorry, but then we have to keep on pestering to them. Ki bhejo, information bhejo. Because waiting for the last minute doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then because we also have to give the expenses. Thankfully, we have a different accounts and finance team who sends the expense reports to each and every project. So the project has to just pick it up and send it to us. But the other part, the stories, the work on the ground, the photos, we have now started training them to how to take good photos which speak something. Otherwise, initially they used to make all the kids stand in a row, all the women stand in a row and take pics. So we said, no, this doesn't work. These are the things which you have to look at. And now they can create excellent reels also, thank God. And I also have a media manager now. So my work becomes more easy. One more thing which I would like to add to win the confidence of the donor is, if you can't do something, just say that you can't do it. Or if there is some problem, some challenge which you're facing to complete that target or that task, just share it with your donor. Donors are human beings. CSR people are human beings. They understand that there can be some problems which we need to face, or which we need to address, or which may delay the process. So better share it with them. If you go on telling them some humbugs, they know it. They can read it.
Yeah.
So the more transparent, the more truthful.
Even they can make out what is feasible, what is not feasible.
Exactly.
So there's no point in overcommitting.
No, not overcommitting. And even if in the ongoing project, if there's going to be a problem or you're going to face an issue, just let them know beforehand. They also come up with ideas. It's not that we are the only ones who have to face it.
One more practical difficulty we have seen is non-profits go with a project to a donor, and then the donor says, no, but we don't fund this, we fund this. So why don't you tweak your project?
Yeah.
Or why don't you change your approach or size or whatever scale? Have you come across this, and how have you dealt with this?
Yeah, sometimes we can convince them that what we are doing is more important than what your idea is, but usually it doesn't happen that way. For example, there was an organization who said, see, we give for only girls education. We don't give for boys. So then I said, okay, we have so many girls, you can give for the girls. They said, what will you do with the boys? I said, we'll have to find another donor for the boys. So, but I said that, see, girls are equally vulnerable and boys are also, they face the same type of vulnerability. They are also not getting education. They also come from the same background. So why are you so interested in supporting only girls? So then they said, prove it. And then I had to tell them what is the issue with the boys as well as girls coming from a background of sex workers or coming from born with HIV. So they have the same issues, I said. Then I said, okay, we'll get back to you. Fortunately, after a month or so, they again came to us and they said, okay, we are funding all your kids. Okay. So it happens that way. Or we have to tweak the proposal, because for example, when we pitched for rehab to one of a very renowned organization in Mumbai, they said that we give only for education, we will not give for the health and all these things. We said, okay, no issues. Then we changed the whole whatever description we had put, we changed the whole description, and we said that this is educational support to rehab kids. And we took only that much which they could give for education, and then
I
we
see.
found someone else for nutrition and medical and all expenses. So yes, we have to change.
So one can try to convince.
Yeah.
And
First thing is try to convince. Most of the time it works, but if it doesn't, then we have to tweak the proposal. And a recent example was that the whole project was approved. We said, okay, now we are going to get the funds, and then they suddenly came back and they said, no, this is more of advocacy which you are doing, and it involves a lot of stakeholders whom we work with indirectly or directly. So we can't fund you. So I said, okay, what if we create it as a sensitization project instead of intervention? They said, okay, send us and we will decide. But they were very keen on supporting us. So then we just left the intervention part totally and just we stuck to sensitization. And they were okay with it.
I think this flexibility is also very important
Yes.
as to how do you. It is not only you get the donor on your make him think like you do, but it's also that you should also think like what a donor is
Yes,
thinking. And
there may be genuine
with
problems.
some minor
for
tweaks,
them.
I mean, it can work with a win-win for.
And they may be having genuine problems on their side also, no, to support.
No, they have a mandate from the board. Or
Exactly. So yes, if you have to make it work, it should be mutually understandable. Yes, that's true.
One more situation which NGOs face is there are some expenses which are not funded by CSR.
Yeah.
Right. It could be a indirect cost, or it could be a capital expenditure, or if NGOs want to do some pilot or some research or some feasibility study, which doesn't get normally funded.
Yes.
I'm sure you have so many projects, so there must have been a stage that everything you have done it on a pilot basis or a proof of concept.
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
So how have you funded this, or?
Yeah. It's a great question actually. Initially, what would happen was everything other than the programmatic cost was supposed to be indirect cost. And CSR people were not interested in that. Gradually, now they have realized that some part of the staff is essential to run a project.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you are pitching for, just as I said, adoption center, the caregivers are a part of the team. If the caregivers are not there, we are not going to look after the kids. If the nurses are not there, we cannot help the kids because we have actually newborn kids coming to adoption centers. So now they consider this to be a programmatic cost. So all these directly working staff in the field, directly with the beneficiaries, they can be considered as programmatic. So do not put them in indirect cost or admin cost. Put them in the direct programmatic cost itself, and they are taken into consideration. First thing. Second thing, the admin cost will include directors. They will include superintendents.
Yeah.
In that also you can say, see, we will bear about 50% of the cost. 50% of the cost, if you can give, it will be a great thing. So security guard.
So many times it's a
driver.
part of negotiation or a convincing.
Yes. And as far as the capex is concerned, infra development is concerned, I think now many of the CSRs, especially the public sector CSRs, they are interested in this type of funding. Yes, they give for construction, vehicles, everything that is easily visible. They are ready to give for that. So you have to find the right
Because you
donor.
can't show impact if you build a school or something.
Yes,
what is the impact
yes.
you can show?
But and that cases, branding is very important. You can put a big name of the donor. You can build a donor tree. You can properly put out their logos, their names. Then you can do a proper inauguration. You can call the guests. So these all things help them to connect with you. So for capex, it is you have to find out who will be ready to.
That's important.
Who will be ready to fund the capex cost. Many HNIs, ultra HNIs are very interested in giving for capex or equipment because they want to keep a memory of their beloved people, or maybe there is some incident in their family which can relate to that project. So in such cases, they then fund for capex. So you have to find the right person. Now that comes
And
through
how
experience.
about this pilot projects or feasibility?
So getting the pilot project, you have what our experience is. First, we have to put in the money.
But from your corpus or
Yes,
something?
corpus or reserved funds or unrestricted funds, if there are there, we have to put in the money. Otherwise, there should be a bunch of people who are really your followers. Genuinely, they are following you.
They'll give you
Anything
blindly
new,
whatever.
anything new you're going to come up with, they're going to support you. So you have to have such a bunch of people, and I think having such people on the trustee board is another very important thing which you can have. Because if you have a range of people, no, who are on the trustee board, maybe entrepreneurs or someone from the social sector, someone from the educational sector, though they don't bring in funds, they at least have connections at places where we can get these funds, or they can
Even I think
convince
you
these people.
mentioned that individual donors is about 20-25% of your donation,
Yes, yes.
which is significant. And
Very significant.
all of this is unrestricted funds.
Yes. No, not necessary. Now there is a rule for that. Any individual donor giving more than 25,000 in a go, we have to take permission from them where we are going to use those funds.
Oh, is it?
Yes, you have to take a letter from them. That
You
we
can't
are-
say that we are going to use it for our organization growth.
they ask us for what do you need the money, and then we'll write a letter. But a letter is mandatory.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
So individual donations are no longer unrestricted?
No, they are not. Means generalized unrestricted funds we don't get. If they are okay with, they can give for corpus, but they have to get a letter. You can use this for corpus. You can use this for education. You can use this for.
And this is under which law?
I think it is under the Income Tax Act.
Income tax.
Yes, but anything about 25,000, even if it is 25,001, you have to take
Oh, okay.
a letter from them. Yes.
Yes.
And same applies for CSRs, because we usually we
CSR.
have a MOU, but if you don't have a MOU, even if a email is there, it's okay, but you have to have a proof that this is being used for the same purpose for what it is given.
Okay.
Yes, that is very much mandatory, because now it is no longer in the hands of means the income tax law is governed by someone else now. It's not governed only by the income tax department. There is a special person who is actually vigilant about where this money of the corporate sector is going to the social sector. So you have to prove everything what you do with big amount of money.
And since you're also handling the media operations,
Yeah.
how does it gel with the fundraising activity, and
Yes.
why is it important?
Yeah, so initially, I think maybe if you look at about 15 or 16 years back, social media was something very new. FB was just for fun and all these things. But now we are using social media extensively. First thing is you should have a good website. Easy to approach website. It shouldn't be very complicated. The donate button should be on the first page.
Every page.
Every page, but on the first page, first thing, a red button, donate button should be there. And the second thing is you should keep on updating it, because every month something new happens in every social organization. So it should be updated frequently. We have a blog where we put in all these stories, whatever events happen, just a 2 minute or 3 minute read. But these blogs are fantastic to approach the people. People want to know stories from the ground. Individual
But is it only
donors.
the website you are using, or even others?
No, others are also there, but means we have been appreciated for our website.
Okay.
It's the most easiest website to read. That is what people have told us. Then we also use Facebook, we also use Instagram, we use LinkedIn, we use Twitter, and a YouTube channel. Yeah. So Facebook is a bit 40 के आगे के लोगों के लिए अभी. Instagram is a bit younger generation shout out. Twitter is more of advocacy. LinkedIn is more for corporate, getting to know CSRs, or vice versa. I mean, so different medias are for different things. Other than that, we have a very good print media reach, at least in Ahmednagar district, and somewhat in Maharashtra state. So whatever we do, whatever big events we do, we make it a point to put it out on print media. And since Girish has been working in the journalism sector for a long time, he knows how to write a perfect news, and he has trickled it down to many other people. So yeah, we write quite a good print, and we also encourage the project coordinators and the directors to write articles about all the issues which we handle. So it's not only talking about Snehalaya, it's talking about the issues which we handle.
Yeah.
So print media also works. YouTube is a very good example of how to reach to thousands of people. And I'll give you an example, cite you an example where we do highlights. Every year in December, we put out the highlights of Snehalaya, and they are about 8 to 10 minutes, but they are very popular.
I see.
People can see what has happened in a glance throughout the year in Snehalaya.
Anything that you do proactively for the individual donors in terms of communication, one-to-one communication?
Yes, we have been writing letters for years together. Letters for birthdays, wedding anniversaries to our donors, then letters of condolences, gratitude letters. First they were handwritten, now that is not possible. So we have a printed format, but then we make it we put a few lines in to make it more individualistic, and we do phone calls every day.
I see.
Yes. So we have an individual donor base of around 20,000 people.
Oh.
Yeah. So every day there is a person from the PR section who actually calls up people, and who all have birthdays or wedding anniversaries. And
Oh, that's very interesting.
then people are a bit instigated, कि चलो phone आया है तो कुछ देना चाहिए. And then we have,
even a recall is good enough. I mean,
yes. And most of the people then they decide to celebrate. If they're local people, they decide to celebrate their birthdays with us. Some of them give meal donations. We have a very fantastic campaign, very unique, called the Pitru Pandravada campaign.
Okay.
Yeah, and it works great. See, I'm giving you a secret out on this platform, but it works great. I mean, people are very much ready to pay for meals, because Pitru Pandravada, I think meal donation or food grains donation is considered to be very holy. So yes, we get a lot of donations from this. It's just a 15-day campaign between when the Ganpati festival ends and there is Dasara, Navratri. So in between this 15 days campaign, it's a success. We have tried it since last 3 years.
I see.
Yeah. So it was a great success, and not only for meals but also for food grains. So these are some of the fundas, and then we also are on crowdfunding platforms. So crowdfunding platforms also, but you should know what to pitch on crowdfunding. If you're going to ask for 5,000, 6,000 rupees on a crowdfunding platform per donor, it's not going to work. 500, 1,000, anyone is very happy to give. So crowdfunding platforms work in a different
But is
way.
that cost effective? I mean, what is the...
Initially it was. Now they have started increasing the costs. But touch wood that we have had very successful campaigns for last 2 years on crowdfunding. So that is why we shelled out that money. Another very interesting thing is Better India. They don't help us to give donations directly, but they give us a great visibility. And they talk about organizations, they talk about founders, they talk about people working in foundations. So that is a great way to have a good visibility. And Better India is a very well-known platform now. Another funda is campaigns like Donate Cart. So they create a campaign around the needs of the organization. Those may be stationery, those may be food grains, and then they say ki every 500 you pay brings 2 baby formulas for babies, or say 100 diapers, something of that sort, and that appeals very well. If you want this type of campaign to be successful, it should be usually done in the festival time, because people have a hand in their pocket and they want to give.
Yeah.
So yes, these are some of the ideas which work actually. And then you can have your own campaigns anytime. The only thing which has not worked for us is getting donations on specific days. Like in next 24 hours, if you donate then this much will be matched. that type of mentality has still not developed, at least for our donors. I don't know if some of them have been successful, but that usually, if the campaign is going on for 15 days, 1 month, 2 months, it works.
I see.
People try to want to give at leisure, but on that particular day, if they see the ad, or if they see the video, and then they feel, yes, I have to donate immediately. If they put the button, they press the Pay button, yes, then it is going to be. If they say, नहीं 2 दिन के बाद दूंगा, तो वो कभी नहीं देंगे. That is what is about crowdfunding.
Yeah, there's so much happening on the funding side, especially with the non-profits, and government becoming very inquisitive and they want to monitor everything.
Yeah.
We have seen a lot of restrictions being put on FCRA, and
Yes.
a lot is being said about constraints on CSR.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of interesting things are happening in terms of what can the non-profits do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you have any plans of tapping any new avenues, any new sources of funds?
Yes, I think social stock exchange is something which can be tapped by middle level and bigger level organizations. The only thing is you have to be an open book. Just as public sector corporates have to
IPOs.
be a open book whenever they want to go for IPOs. Similarly, if you want to go on social stock exchange, you have to be like an open book. So organizations who are ready to do that, they can go on social stock exchange. We are in the process of thinking. We have started the thinking process, but I think it will accumulate in actually going on the social stock exchange. Another interesting thing is about returnable grants. So this is a very new thing. Returnable grants are something which we have to give back. We can use it for some time span, and then we have to start returning it. The rate of interest is very low or nil sometimes, but this is a new concept which has come up, especially for capital expenses or buying equipment or something. We can tap this type of option.
But this return of grant can happen out of fresh donations they get also, or it has to be out of the revenues they generate out of that activity.
No. Returnable grants, there are organizations who do returnable grants. So usually what they do is they connect you with some maybe HNIs, ultra HNIs or corporates who are ready to give you funds for a certain time. And then you have to start returning that.
Yeah, so you return it out of what? And fresh donations you get?
No. For example, if I buy equipment for the hospital, anyway the equipment is going to be used for patients.
Yeah, so
patients
you
are
charge
going
for
to
it.
So patients are going to pay for me.
You charge for it, and out of that revenue,
then I can return that. Similarly, you can connect the beneficiaries also directly to these organizations who give returnable grants.
Okay.
We tried that with one of our project of slum redevelopment. So the people who wanted to own the houses, they didn't even have money to pay the initial money, because they didn't have any mortgage, they didn't have anything to get it from banks. So they were not getting loans anywhere. So this Rangde was an organization who came forward, and then we connected them to the Rangde. Yeah. But these are very new things. We are still in the thought process, but I hope it works.
Yeah. And I think you are at a size where you will be heard if you approach somebody, or if you want to try out. I think you have a size.
And I think organizations of our size should start having a fundraising strategy.
I was coming to that last question before we conclude.
Yeah.
At what size, or you mentioned about what does the fundraising team do, but at what size should organizations think about a separate fundraising team?
I think anything about 10 CR.
About 10 CR.
Yes, because you have to keep on getting the money. It's never going to be enough. Now also whatever we earn, it goes out. I mean, we hardly have anything in corpus, except for people who actually want to donate to corpus. And CSRs cannot donate to corpus as of now. So we have to rely on individual donors, HNI, ultra HNI people who are ready to give for corpus or unrestricted funds. Both these things do not come from corporates. They do not come from government grants. They do not come from private grants. And they don't come from FCRA also. So we have to keep on earning. We have to at least have 1 or 2 people who think about fundraising. They may be volunteers, they may be from your trustee board, doesn't matter as of now. But at least start thinking in that direction. And having a cushion, having restricted funds, having corpus is something which is very essential. If you want to keep on going in rainy days, that's what I call it.
Yeah.
Because we recently had such rainy days, and that lasted for 2.5 years in COVID. So we have to have this cushion if you really want to keep on going. And what happens is when an organization becomes 15 or 20 years old, it the beneficiaries are heavily dependent on you. So you have to think
Yeah, you
about
can't
the
just discontinue.
beneficiaries. Yes, you have to think of the beneficiaries. You have to think of the staff. For example, now we have a 350 plus staff. It's just like running a middle-sized company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that is why I think you have to have a fundraising, at least two people on the board or volunteers or your loyal followers who are constantly thinking about ways to raise funds. And and after that, of course, if you have a fundraising strategy for the next 5 years, nothing like it. And now professional help is available to have a fundraising strategy. I mean, Seva Tarang is a great example for this. So if you can have such people who are working pro bono or who are working at a cost also, it's great to have these people with you.
Yeah.
Because you can't reach all CSRs, you can't reach after
Yeah, I
a
was
certain
coming to
time.
that as to what is the profile of these people, and how do they, because many NGOs complain that they don't know whom to approach, they don't know who gives money for what.
Yeah.
Apparently there is no industry level any kind of a database or any such
No.
public document which talks about which foundations donate for what,
What.
etc. So I mean, how have you gone about doing that research?
Yes.
And
Yeah. So first I said we had only two people on
yeah.
in this field. Now I have a 12
Oh.
people. Of
Wow.
course, they are not. Everybody is not on fundraising. So I have a fundraising senior executive. I have a PR senior executive. I have a media management executive. I have a volunteer management executive, and then they have a hierarchy. I mean, they have people working for them. So the fundraising person has one person who manages all the data. Then there is another person who looks out at proposal writing, report writing, looking at CSR policies of organizations, and then how are we going to match it with our work. So those are the two people who work under fundraising. Public relations, she has 3 people working, 4 people working under her, because public relations is a very thankless job. You have to work with the visitors, you have to work with the donors, you have to keep on calling for the birthdays and all these things. You have to also look at events. If there are meal donations, you have to welcome those guests. So it's a very thankless job, and I'm very thankful that I have a very good dedicated FR executive and a PR executive who is working. Volunteer management is also important for organizations, because volunteers are our future fundraisers. That is what I feel. At least they will be able to talk about Snehalaya to 100 more people.
Yeah.
So if you're going to treat your volunteers well, it's going to help you a lot in future. So I have a different volunteer management person, and we get around 100 to 200 this time we had around 200 plus volunteers and placement people who came to us. And it's not only about getting people to talk about us. Some of them become our employees, and very good employees, because they have worked with us for a month or so. They know what is the scenario in our organization, and they can be very good employees for us. And the media management person, he is very dedicated. Thanks to him again. He will go at every event, go to people, take their stories, make a caption, put it out, make a timetable for what will go on Facebook, what will go on LinkedIn, what will go. So it is like you have to have a proper working for all these 4 people, so that it trickles down to the last person in their group. So now I have a good group.
No, that's
and other than
very
that,
important.
trustees are another very important asset of fundraising, because even if they are not going to directly help in creating proposals, they are going to connect us to people. So it's not only about having a good team inside; it's also a good team out, which is working on the top. And wherever necessary, if you take the founder Girish anywhere, he is क्या बोलते हैं हम, मैटिनी शो हो जाता है फिर, and it's houseful 100%. So yes, you need some people who can talk really well.
Yeah.
And we also now we are the new trustee board is just going to have a training where they will be know how to represent Snehalaya at various places. If they have to talk only for 10 minutes, what they should talk. If they're going to talk for 20 minutes, what they should talk. If they're going to talk for more than an hour, what they should talk. What kind of questions can come. What kind of answers they're going to give. So we're going to have a training for that also.
Wow. No, that's very interesting. I think the fundraising topic can go on, and I think live experiences, and I think they matter a lot. I'm sure all our participants would have benefited
questions.
a lot on this, and I'm sure if you have a lot of questions, you can put them in the chat box, or you can send us on email. We'll make sure that Dr. Priti is communicated about them, and we will answer as many as possible. And I hope this has helped all the participants in at least getting some direction as to how they can approach this very important topic of fundraising. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me here. And last but not the least, you should be ready to change yourself
Yeah.
after a certain time, because issues go back. You have to think
Organizations
about
have to
related,
evolve.
yeah, and related issues you need to keep on finding if you want to go on.
Yeah.
So dynamism, passion, authenticity, and professionalism. These
Yeah.
four things work anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Priti.
Yeah.
Pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you have any questions for this session, either for us or for our guest today, I would request you to put it on the chat box of this session, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as possible, and also let Mr. Dr. Bombay respond to it. Thank you.